Okay, Travis Wayne Goodsell. I'm sure you guys are familiar with, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? It's an old fiction tale written in a book form, which is now obsolete. It was about a submarine underneath the waters, under the oceans. And that was before submarines had been invented. So imagine that submariners had as their religious text 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And they clearly have submarines, and they're going under the ocean. But then they claim that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was not science fiction, but was their manual or their history of their organization, their submariners organization. Yes, I'm sure you've figured out what's going on here, as this is an LDS Critic video. Or if you saw the movie Galaxy Quest and the historical documents of Galaxy Quest were used to replicate the spaceship. I've heard many apologists use claims that because we can replicate some of the things claimed in the Book of Mormon, that therefore that proves that the Book of Mormon is not plagiarized fiction. That it must therefore be a true book, a true history of the Native American Indians, because we can replicate the claims. There's I don't have it up here on the table. There were missionaries who went to the Middle East, and they followed the path of Lehi, and they confirmed that when we got to this point in Saudi Arabia, our metal rusted. Oh, it's proof. And oh, there's a name here that's the same as Sheham, or whatever that name was. And then, sure enough, the land bountiful is where the monsoons come every year and fertilize the land to make it bountiful. It doesn't matter how much you can show within the text that is in fact possible to create. I've even heard a person who works with metals and says, oh, well, yeah, if you want to engrave on very paper thin metal plates, you don't etch into them. You pour a wax over it, and then you etch into the wax, and then you put an acid substance over it, and that gets rid of the wax and leaves the etching on the plates. And therefore, the Book of Mormon is true. No. It just means that you can replicate the claims, just like in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He wrote about it. People said, oh, okay, well, let's try to replicate it. And they made submarines. Or Star Trek. The flip phone. That's where it comes from. And that was well before flip phones. That was well before cell phones. Back in those days, a phone call still cost a dime at a payphone. where Superman would go into to change. I think one of the movies, one of the sequels with Christopher Reeves, showed how he wasn't able to go into a phone booth anymore. Can't remember which one or show I saw where that was the case. And so, just because Star Trek had flip phones does not mean that Star Trek is correct, that it's a true story, that Captain Kirk is a real starship captain sailing around out in outer space. And just because we have submarines doesn't mean that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was a true story of submariners. And just because you can make all sorts of claims in the Book of Mormon, oh, we found horse remains, therefore the Book of Mormon's true. No, that's not how you prove truth. In order to prove that the Book of Mormon is true, got to show the plates. And then the plates have to be analyzed for authenticity of time. Then linguistics has to do research on the ability to translate and decipher and make sure that it's not talking about anachronisms of things that weren't supposed to be in existence but were placed in that time frame. You can't just adjust the dates of time to correspond with the book's claims. That doesn't work. People are doing it with the Bible, and they're messing everything up. You know, the truth of time is getting altered by man wanting it to conform to their interpretation of the Bible. And so just like Mormons, you can't do that. And so that's one of the fallacious attempts to defend the Book of Mormon. So remember that as they're going over the Book of Mormon this year in Sunday school, that it's already been proven a fraud. It's got plagiarized materials, and I'm the one who's discovered that it's got decoded messaging in there. For those of you who are like, what? Doctrine and Covenants. Before 1981, that's when the triple combination came out. 79 was when the Bible came out. Or was it 80 and 81? No, 79 and 80, something like that. Bible was first back then. And then they switched it in 2000 to do the Book of Mormon triple combination first. Before then, the Doctrine and Covenants had all these different names, where we see Joseph Smith, Oliver Cowdery, Sidney Rigdon, David Whitmer, etc., etc. That's because the people working on the triple combination back in the 70s tried to figure out who were the people that were encoded with these other names. And as I've done the video, was it this morning or yesterday, about section 1 verse 16, where it says Babylon shall fall. Well, Babylon already fell. It's no longer a kingdom. It's still encoded. The people who did the work back in the 70s forgot to put the translation for that, or the actual place name for that. And instead they just say, oh, it's the world. It's America, guys. America. And so Joseph Smith is talking to Mormons in America. And so Babylon shall fall. And we're at that brink. If the Senate acquits, or if the Senate decides not even to hear the case, Trump carries on in full force with full, unstoppable fury to seek revenge on everyone. And all America will suffer. I had a person comment about my LDS critic videos. She said, don't know if I can quote it, but I could probably bring it up semi-quickly. Because I make captures of all the videos, or all the comments that I don't keep. And 1-1 channel comments, I think it's this one. And Windows Pictures takes forever to load. Alrighty. So yes, this is it. Let me... I can probably do this. Yeah. Angelina White. And she has a picture, so certainly she's not Russian. She says, "Stop being bitter and go do good for the homeless or the people that physically need your help." And she's clueless. She thinks she's defending the church. Like I said, Mormons are pure evil. This was on LDS Church, Come Follow Me, Book of Mormon 2020. The one I did this morning, I think. Yeah. Stop being bitter. She obviously has not been to my other site, to my other videos, on either channel. She's not been to my website. She's not seen my books. And so she's speaking out of ignorance, obviously. But this is the typical Mormon behavior, that when somebody says something negative about the church, the Mormons immediately say it's fake news, and you're haters of our religion, and you're persecuting us, you need to leave us alone. Do good. She says, go do good. She refuses to see through my eyes. I've done the research. I've lived 50 years in the church, being faithful and devoted, because I didn't do the research on church history. And when I finally did church history research, and I did it according to my education, not as critics are doing it, and following whatever the historians have been claiming about the church. I've got D. Michael Quinn's books. They're still brand new. They crack when you try to open them still. I've got them for reference if I ever need to refer to them. But I always go to the primary source, not an author. That's how I did my research. And as a Mormon, I knew that I couldn't be biased by my Mormon baggage. And so I had to let the facts lead me to where the results are. And that's how I learned the church is not just wrong, it's pure evil. What Brigham Young did to murder Joseph Smith and take the kingdom away from the Mormons, extorting people to follow him into the desert, where he became king of Deseret. And so Angelina, she's clueless because she won't do what's necessary to search for truth. She wants to be told fluffy stories of Jesus Christ and how the Book of Mormon is true. She doesn't want to hear anything contrary. And so as a result, she becomes the abuser, because that's how the church taught her. She thinks she's in the right, that she's making a righteous judgment upon me. And what she in reality is doing is saying, ignore the church's crimes and you go do something to help the poor where the church hasn't done anything to help the poor. Because it's the church's job to help the poor. Remember, they're a religion. They say they're going to give charity. That $100 billion scandal, they're not giving charity from that. They're just collecting more and more and more and more and more. And I already did the videos saying that what the church used for the parable of talents was wrong. That they needed to refer to Jesus and the rich man, or all of the Book of Mormon stories about the great and abominable church being wealthy, those rich Zoramites kicking out the poor, and the Antichrist and the priestcraft, and the Gadian robbers. And so again, it is Angelina who is blinded by the deception of the church. The church has made the gospel a stumbling block for the Mormons, just as the great and abominable church in the Book of Mormon story made the Bible a stumbling block for the Gentiles. So I just wanted to get that out, because otherwise it would go in my pile that I have yet to get to. So the depths of Mormon hatred. And I'm sure she's a sweet, innocent girl until you start talking about the church or her political affiliation or some other subject matter that she takes seriously. And then her true self comes out. So, alrighty.